First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the first one-night KMA Sports Hall of Fame celebration. I want to say some thank yous. First of all, thank yous to the Shenandoah administration that allowed for us to host here tonight. Aaron Burdorf, we appreciate him helping us put this thing together. Also, thank you to Ryan Matheny, who is running our slideshow here tonight, as well as the lights and the music and all of that. Trevor Mader, he was covering a wrestling event in Audubon. He will be here in a little bit. And then Gentry Sheffield as well. I have a lot of passion for this KMA Sports Hall of Fame. I started it 3 years ago, and I have a lot of passion for it. And I want, I don't know that they have the same passion, but at least they're willing to help me out. And without them, this wouldn't have happened. So I appreciate them for helping me tonight. Also, KMA Radio for 3 years ago when I came up with this harebrained idea, and they allowed for the freedom for me to do pretty much what I wanted with it. So really thankful for that. And definitely thank you all for being here. Those of you from the public that are just here to see some of your friends or your family, or you're just a fan of them, get inducted tonight. Thanks to our presenters who are here to do the inducting, and of course to the fantastic inductees for being here tonight. As I mentioned, this is the third year of the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, but it is the first time we have done a one-night celebration. When I started it 3 years ago, we went to, so we had 20 inductees, say. We went to 20 different high school gymnasiums or football fields or cross-country courses or tennis courts or whatever it was, and it was very difficult for me personally to get to all of those, which again, Trevor Mader, Ryan Matheny, Brent Barnett, folks like that, appreciate them for helping me to get that done. But I wanted to be there for all of it, and so kind of the vision that I had when I started this was to start local, make sure KMA Sports Hall of Fame became something that folks cared about, and then do a big one each year. So this is the first time we've been able to do this. The process, some have asked about that for the KMA Sports Hall of Fame. It starts with some nominations. I've received many nominations from lots of people. Then I get into the books and research and the websites and all of that. And then it's just trying to fit it all together. We have a very wide range. We have a lot of years. KMA Radio is over 90 years old. So a very wide range, very large frequency, lots of different towns and communities involved, and certainly many, many years of greatness that we had to sift through in order to, find some Hall of Famers. Of course, the last part is people accepting this induction, and nobody said no just yet. Tonight we have 16 individual Hall of Famers from the 2019-20 class, this class, and one from the 2018-19 class that we couldn't get in last year. Those individuals will be inducted tonight, but also a big part of the KMA Sports Hall of Fame since the beginning was inducting teams and kind of connecting that with 50-year anniversaries or 40-year anniversaries or 30-year anniversaries. And so we want to honor those teams here tonight, which we have done in separate events, and you'll see in just a moment. The first team we'll talk about tonight is the 1969 Clarinda football team. This team was led by Coach John Dornan. They were on a 19-game win streak when they went into that year, and they lost a game that year. So the two teams before did not lose. This one did. However, the story behind it is well worth it for this team because Dornan, his team was just dominating his first 2 years as the coach, and he basically put an ad in the Des Moines Register looking for somebody to come play him. And Cedar Rapids, Washington signed up. And they signed up for a road game. Could you imagine now Cedar Rapids, Washington playing at Clarinda? But that's what happened that night. And Clarinda, the Cedar Rapids, Washington team, was one of the top-rated teams in the state. They were a Class 2A team. They were the higher class team. Clarinda pulled within 1 point with 1:21 to go. There were a lot of great players on that Clarinda team, but none of them were kickers. So they went for two, and they didn't get the 2-point conversion, ended up losing by 1. But they would go on to dominate the rest of the season, didn't come close to losing the game the rest of the way, and ended up rated 4th in the state. They didn't have playoffs back then. ended up fourth in the state from the UPI poll. They were behind Waterloo East, Dowling, and Cedar Rapids Jefferson. And they were tabbed the Southwest Iowa champions for a third straight year. They had 14 all-conference members, including 8 on that first team. And this Clarinda team came together at homecoming on October 11th, and we honored them there at halftime. The next team is our youngest Hall of Fame team ever. Or it's only 3 years, but it's our youngest team. Really talented team, really talented team. But I think the story about this team is even better than their talent, because the Vikettes, as they were called, this was the final year for Exira Athletics before they became Exira Elkhorn Kimballton. And they had a really good one in Hallie Christofferson on their team, who would go on to star at Iowa State. She averaged over 27 points, nearly 16 rebounds per game, and she had 133 blocks and 120 steals. So she was a complete superstar. But I think the most incredible part of this story was that the last shot they took ever as Exira earned them a state championship. It was tied at 55. There were just seconds left. And Coach Tom Peterson drew up a play that's going to go down in history in Exira basketball lore. Courtney Peppers inbounded the ball underneath the opponent's hoop. She threw it to the half line to Hallie Christofferson, who tipped it to Chelsea Nelson, who threw it quickly to Ann Walker, who was made free on a screen by Casey Simpson, and then Walker made the layup at the horn. So I just named all 5 players on that play, and they couldn't have done it without each one of those. So that team was actually honored last night, 2009-2010 Exira girls basketball. One of the most dominant, deepest cross-country teams in state history celebrated their 30th anniversary of the state championship earlier this year. Shenandoah boys cross country, Shenandoah Essex boys cross country, dominant locally, regionally, and throughout the state, winning the school's 4th overall and 2nd straight state title. Now, this team was so deep that they could have contended for a championship with their JV team. They had 7 of the top 9 finishers in the Hawkeye 10 varsity meet, and the top 6 and 9 of the top 10 in the JV meet. In cross country, the lower your score, the better. They had 17 points at the conference meet, the Hawkeye 10 conference meet, and then 17 again at the district meet. It's a near perfect score. At state, they had 4 of the top 9 and finished with 51 points, and their usual top runner actually collapsed during that race, so they still won by a lot, even with that fact. KMA Sports Hall of Famer himself, Coach Ray Graves, was the coach of that team, and we honored that team and 10 of their members of that team in Shenandoah back on October 3rd. And the last team, or teams actually, the 1999 and 2000 Underwood wrestling squads. Right near the turn of the century, Louis Curtis was their coach, and he was busy building one of the most powerful wrestling programs in the state. They made 2 state dual team appearances, but more than that, they made their biggest mark at the traditional tournament. In 1998, they were really close in a lot of matches. They would lose by 1 point, or they would lose in overtime in some big matches. The next year, they broke through. In 1999, they scored 97 points and won the state championship. Blue Wall, yes, Blue Wall, and Joe Durick won individual championships there. Keith Clausen was runner-up. Mark Lander was 3rd. And then the next year, those 2 won individual championships as the 2000 team won the team title with 111.5 points. And we honored the Underwood State Championship teams earlier this month on December 5th. So those are the teams that we honored in this year's KMA Sports Hall of Fame. And now it's time to get to the individuals, which you guys are all here for tonight. We're going to go in alphabetical order, other than one exception. The first honoree, actually, who is here for us, her husband is Santa Claus in Glenwood, and he has an 8 o'clock appointment, and we can't let the kids miss out on Santa Claus. And by the way, if he comes up here, you'll see he is Santa Claus. I hope that's all right I said that. All right, first up, Vivian Fleming Perkins. She was one of the most prolific scorers in the history of Iowa 6-on-6 basketball. Perkins scored over 4,000 points during a career that went from 1953 to 58. So if you count that up, that's more than 4 years. She played high school basketball in 8th grade. The last half of her career was with Emerson, which she led to the 1958 state tournament. She set many records at the state tournament that year, including making 20 consecutive free throws and scoring over 200 points during that tournament. Emerson advanced all the way to the championship game before a 59-51 loss in that championship to West Central. Perkins is also a member of the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union Hall of Fame and is 10th to this day on the all-time scoring list in Iowa history. The 9 in front of her aren't from this area, so she is the all-time leading scorer in KMA land history. Vivian lives in Ohio now, and she's unable to be here tonight. However, to accept induction into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome her sister, Jan Fisher.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I was there for every game during the state tournament, but I can't remember all the records that she broke. She broke 4. One was 20 free throws in a row, and one was the most points scored in 4 games, and that was 200. So she did really well. She really did. She's such a humble person. You know, she just takes it in stride and is glad it happened for the girls and so forth, but she certainly is very humble about it. I have a picture that I'll set up here so you can see it. I'm the oldest of the 4 girls. Viv is second. Anne, who played with her, with Vivian, lives in Osage Beach, Missouri, and she wasn't able to come tonight either. And Vivian isn't here because her granddaughter from California that she hasn't seen for 2 years came back for Christmas. So that's that story. She has 4 children. She has 6 grandchildren. She still works. I think she's crazy. She said she's 79. It's time to rest, you know? But she still works. It's a nice little job, not very far from her house and everything. But it keeps her busy, and she likes to do that. So I don't know what else to tell you. She's just a wonderful sister, a wonderful human being. And I thank you, KMA, for this award. I wish she could have been here.
Thank you for being here.
You bet.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
All right, hope those kids get all the presents they want. Thank you for being here, Jan. We appreciate that. Our next inductee is the late Dana Dawson Austin. One of the greatest athletes in West Nottoway history, Austin is a highly decorated track champion and one of the best softball players in Missouri state history. Sherry Kemp, commissioner of the National Pro Fast Pitch League, was somebody that I talked with and knows and played with Dana, and she had this to say.
Dana was one of those players that was a standout. You're not going to walk up to the game and not notice her. And clearly, it was that speed. It was exceptional. It was extraordinary. I saw it years later in Taylor, her daughter, which exciting and fun. But you saw it with Dana offensively and defensively. So she got to balls that normal people didn't get to.
Austin was a key member of the 1982 West Nottoway State Softball Champion, and her love for sports and her abilities continue to live on with her children. As you heard Sherry mention there, Taylor Gadbois, who is a former Missouri star and also played in that National Pro Fast Pitch League. Austin was also an outstanding track star. She won 3 state long jump championships in 1983, 1984, and 1985. She also won the 100-meter dash championship in 1985. Unfortunately, Dana is no longer with us, but members of her family are here on her behalf tonight. I would welcome as many of her family members up here as would like to come up, but please welcome Dana Dawson Austin into our KMA Sports Hall of Fame, her husband, Bob.
First of all, I want to introduce, these are Dana's beautiful children, Taylor Gadbois, Derek Gadbois, and Jordan Wardenberg. Their mom has instilled all of her values into them, so I still get to live with it the rest of my life. I just want to say, I'm not really going to talk about Dana's sports accomplishments, but what she did. 10 years ago, she was diagnosed with leukemia. She was given a year to live. She said, they told her she needed to get everything in order. She said, no, I'm not doing that. What I got to do to beat it? Dana made it 10 years. She went through a lot, but her spirit, her smile, her competitiveness, not just that you see in sports, but you saw it in everyday life with her. I got to spend 21 years with her, and I feel like I'm the luckiest man on earth. So, in behalf of Dana and her entire family, thank you very much for doing this. We appreciate it.
All right, let's kind of sticking with West Nottoway, actually. Our next inductee is the one member I mentioned from the 2018-19 class. We're talking about Griswold alum Bill Blay. Blay is a 5-time state champion between cross country and track. He won 2 state titles in cross country and 2 championships in the 2-mile and 1 in the 1-mile in 1992 and 1993. Blay ran in one of the golden eras of cross country in KMA land, getting major competition from guys that we figure will probably be in this Hall of Fame years from now, like Phil Hazenkamp of St. Albert and Marty Dalton from Tri-Center and Matt Mullenix from Woodbine. Despite that competition, Blay was undefeated in his junior year. He won all 12 of his races, and then he won the first 7 in his senior year in cross country. While his streak was snapped on number 20, he avenged that later when it mattered the most in winning his 2nd cross country championship. He was also a 4th-place finisher in the 2-mile as a freshman, and he was 10th in state cross country as a sophomore. And now, as part of tonight's Hall of Fame, we do have presenters for many of our members. And to present Blay into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome his cross country coach and a former assistant track coach at Griswold, Tim Larson.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for Bill asking me. Bill called me or sent me a message through Facebook a couple months ago and asked if I would introduce him into the KMA Hall of Fame, and I said, of course, because it may be as close as I ever get to a Hall of Fame. So that's really why I'm here tonight, Bill. I'll be perfectly honest. I started out teaching in Griswold the fall of 1989. They had kind of suspended their cross-country program, and as a young kid, I asked if I could get the program going again. I had a total of 3 boys out for cross-country that freshman year, first year of 1989. Bill was on the football team. He looked like a fullback. He kind of still does. And Derek mentioned the one thing that I was going to mention, that outside of Bill now being a husband and a father, the thing that I was most proud of was the string that he ran off his junior year, and as Derek alluded to, the 7 that he won his start of his senior year. but he had 2 meets in a row that he lost, one being at Missouri Valley, one being the district meet. So the 10 days between the district meet and the state meet were pretty tough. Bill showed up that morning at the Vinker Golf Course in Ames and took off and never looked back. And I couldn't be more proud of him. A lot of great memories. We were telling some stories. We haven't seen each other since 1989. Some of you may notice his right fist is clenched there. He always carried a little rubber lizard in his hand named Lizzie. I asked him about that. He said he lost it when he was in the Marines, which, by the way, Bill, I don't know if you remember this, but when you left for the Marines, you called me one night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I answered the phone, and you said, "Mr. Larson, do you know who this is?" And I said, "No, but do you know it's 3 o'clock in the morning?" And Bill said, "I'm at the top of Mount Fuji." And I said, "Oh, well, could you call me back tomorrow when it's a little earlier?" So anyway, extremely proud of Bill and his accomplishments, and all of you. It was fun to look at the names and reminisce some of that. So a lot of hard work and effort on everyone's part, and want to welcome Bill up to the stage. Feel like the Oscars for you too, or?
I don't know what it feels like after those 2 stories.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First off, I just want to thank KMA and especially Derek Martin for this. Like he alluded to, in my time era, there could be 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 of us standing up here accepting this award, and I couldn't have ever done anything I did without my teammates, without the coaches, and without the competition that was around me. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Thank you.
All right, so there's been a little conference realignment, but at that time, Griswold was a Western Iowa Conference school, and we're going to stick with the Western Iowa Conference for our next inductee. A 2,000-yard rusher, a multi-time state track qualifier, and a standout contributor in a state basketball qualifier. Tri-Center's David Carlson could do it all. He has a really nice haircut, too, you'll see. A Hall of Famer himself, Kerry Cohorn, relayed a story to me. If people don't know who Kerry Cohorn is, he was at one point the all-time leading scorer in basketball history. He's a KMA Sports Hall of Famer as well. One night, actually, Ryan Matheny's wedding, we were on a bus after the wedding, after the reception, and we stopped in Neola at a place. And David was there, and his wife Heidi was there, and they were giving me a lot of grief, like saying, I just love Trainer so much, and on and on and on. Eventually, we took a photo together, and I sent it to Carrie. I sent a text to Carrie, and I said, "Hey, could you come down here? I'm in Neola, and these guys are giving me some grief." And he didn't get back to me till the next morning, but he said, "Do you know who that is?" That's my idol, David Carlson. So I said, if he's good enough for Kerry Cohorn, then he's good enough for the KMA Hall of Fame. All of that aside, Carlson rushed for over 2,200 yards in his senior season. He was a 2-time first-team All-State choice. He also qualified for state 3 times in the long jump, and it would have been 4 if not for injury. Of course, athletes are athletes, and David Carlson was an athlete. So he picked up a discus, started throwing it around in his senior season, and he qualified for state in that event too. Carlson, also a key member of the 1995 state basketball qualifier, and went on to continue his football career at Northwest Missouri State under Coach Mel Churchma. To present Carlson into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome his former coach, Jay Beller.
Thank you to KMA and to the Carlson family for allowing me to take part in this neat evening. David Carlson, what a tremendous, tremendous athlete. I had the privilege to coach David in Tri-Center a few years ago, and when anybody says a few years ago, you know you're getting older because it's been about 25 years ago. But my career has taken me on a path of being a superintendent and now the executive director of the Nebraska School Activities Association. So I get to see a lot of football games. And David was arguably the best player that I've seen in all the years that I've been doing this. If you'd watch a highlight film of how to run the football, pads low, knees high, and always going forward, that was David Carlson. Like was said earlier, 2,000 yards. His senior year, over 2,000, over 200 a game. But David was so much more than statistics. He was a great teammate. Every time he had one of those long runs, he was quick to give all the credit to his linemen. And he was good to the kids he played with, and he was great to the coaches. And he made us young coaches better than what we were. One time I remember we were playing somebody, and I can't remember the school for sure, but it was fourth and about 2 or 3. And of course, you know how kids are. Every one of them were saying, give it to Carlson, give it to Carlson. I said, no, we have to punt it. So we went through the procedure to punt. The snap was not the greatest. David picked it up and ran 75 yards for a touchdown. So then I had the headsets on, and one of my coaches was Carl Cohorn, Carrie's father, and he said, good call, Coach. So anyway, David was very humble. His teammates worked very hard for him because they liked him as a person as well as a football player. David's work ethic was inspiring. First in every drill, first when running sprints, first in the weight room in the morning. Mark Fritsch was one of our assistant coaches. Mark went on later to become the head coach at Papillion La Vista South, which is a school in Omaha. 7 or 8 years after David went to Northwest Missouri State, he took his team down there. Churchman was still there, and Coach Bostic was there, and went through the weight room. David still had, I think, 4 out of the 6 or 8 records for the defensive backs in weightlifting. So you know how committed he was at that point in time. David was a man of few words, probably because he was tired most of the time. I give him the ball about 30 times a game. Coach Churchma told me one time he was recruiting after David had gone. He said, I wished I had 110 of these David Carlsons. Come to practice every day with his lunch pail, worked hard, didn't say anything, and would knock your block off when he come close to you. So high praise from one of the greatest coaches around. It truly was a pleasure to coach David. It was a pleasure to watch him play in college, and I know Heidi and his family are very proud of David's high school accomplishments. David faces life the same way he played football, head to the grindstone, always moving forward, and determined to make everyone around him a better person. Nobody deserves this award any more than you, David. Congratulations, number 46 from Tri-Center, David Carlson.
Shining. It is. It's good. Like Coach said, I'm a man of few words, so I'm not going to take very long, but just a few thank yous. I was surrounded by, Coach named a few of the people that were there, but people that were leaders, like Coach Beller, Mr. Nanning, Coach Cohorn, Mr. Fritsch. Then when I got to Maryville, Coach Churchma, speaks for itself of the people that I was surrounded by. And then my teammates, the teammates that sacrificed for me, with me, all of our practices and weightlifting sessions, I couldn't have asked for a better group of people or coaches to be around, as I came up through my athletic career. I guess my next thank you is to my family. I grew up in an athletic family. My mom and dad were super athletes. They kind of led the way with family. I met my wife in, kindergarten. I don't know. We joke with our kids we got married on the playground. But yeah, she's been there the whole way. She followed me to Northwest. She got a job while I played my last semester of football. So I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you, Heidi. And lastly, thank you to KMA. Derek, I don't think Derek gets enough thank yous. He and the whole KMA crew, but I coach football at Tri-Center now, and the first thing the kids talk about is, what did Derek say? what did Derek tweet? You know, so it just goes to show you, you know, I remember waking up in the mornings and seeing what Kevin White said. And that's where you are now. I feel like Derek is that person now that the kids really, you know, want to see what, you know, what's going on. They want to see what he says. So thank you to KMA and, you know, Derek and his whole crew. This is quite the honor. I really do appreciate it. So congrats to all the other inductees, and thank you.
Should have put these trophies in order because I'm struggling finding them all. Thank you for saying that too, David, because Kevin White was, that's exactly how I was growing up. What's Kevin White writing about now? And he's a big influence for me, so I appreciate that. Now, David Carlson could long jump, but so could our next inductee. He's a two-time state long jump champion at Fremont Mills. Diane Denville is one of the best jumpers in corner conference in KMA land history. And again, she proved it twice at the state level with championships in 1979 and in 1980. A state medalist with a sixth-place finish as a sophomore, Denville says she saw early success in the event and continued to improve as her career went along. Denville is just the second KMA land athlete and one of 8 now in the area to win multiple girls' long jump championships. To present Denville into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome her former coach at Fremont Mills and a true hidden gem, Scott Kemp.
Thank you, Derek. I'm not sure about the hidden gem, but I appreciate that. A couple of things about Diane. You know, as a track coach, I coached both junior high and high school girls at Fremont Mills for 35 years, and you're always looking for people that come up from the elementary. And it just so happened when Diane came into her junior high year, 7th grade year, I noticed that she had a lot of speed and was able to jump. So what else do I do with her? Besides sprinting, I long jump her. And she just, you know, she started off, she loved the sport, and she worked and she worked and she worked. And all through junior high, saw much success. When she entered her high school year, she also joined 2 sisters who are here with her, by the way, who are already in high school, the Denville girls. And I believe Lisa, her one sister, still holds our 200-meter hurdle record. You old coaches will remember that before they switched to the 400. And then Julie held our school record in the 400-meter dash until a few years ago. So it was a whole family of sprinters. Diane, her freshman year, continued just to work real hard, worked on her stride, she worked on you know, her speed, her jumping ability. And you have to understand, in those days, in the long jump, you know, sometimes they're running on dirt, sometimes they're running on K-Lite, sometimes they were running on crushed rock. It wasn't like the nice smooth surfaces we have today. So it was a little more difficult. But she worked very hard at that and succeeded in her freshman year. In her sophomore year, she then qualified for state and finished 6th at the state track meet. Her junior year, she continued to work hard, one of the hardest working track girls I've ever had, and perfecting you know, her jumping ability. And lo and behold, she qualified for state her junior year and won the state championship. Her senior year, she was up and down. She had a leg injury. And everyone knows, you know, if you have an injury like that, that pretty well, you know, makes you look like I'm not going to be able to do this. But she worked and worked and worked hard, overcame that, and lo and behold, she qualified for state and won her state championship for the 2nd time. And I would like to put in just one little point. All of these athletes that we have here today, you make us coaches look good. You really do. And I think one of the former coaches mentioned that. So we thank all of you athletes for your hard work. One last thing before I introduce Diane is that after, Diane, by the way, is a lady of few words. After she graduated from high school, she went on down to Northwest Missouri State University as a walk-on in track. Her second year, sophomore year, she did receive a scholarship. And a couple years after that, I was talking to her, and she said, you know, she said, all of those years that I ran track at Fremont Mills, you never did put myself and my two sisters in a relay. And you know, I looked at her and I thought, you know, I never did do that. And to this day, I wished I would have. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to the 1979 and 1980 Girls State Long Jump 1A, Diane Denville.
Yes, I am a woman of few words here, so we'll make this short and sweet. I want to thank Coach Kemp for nominating me, and he was just a great coach to work with, and always made me push and do better. And I want to thank my family, my two sisters who are with me tonight. They made me, I had to run after them when I was a little kid, so that was good practice. And I long jumped with Julie, my sister, when I was a freshman, and that was great for me, so because it was all new for me in high school. So it was a good learning experience, and she always encouraged me to do best and to work hard. And I want, like, including my family too with that, and because they were always there and supported me through everything. And thanks for KMA for nominating me. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Scott, he's had a long day, too. He had his son graduate from University of Iowa, so was able to get here, and we appreciate that. All right, our next inductee is one of the greatest all-around track athletes in state history. A 13-time state champion, 6-time Drake Relays winner, Logan Magnolia's Alex Gokenauer routinely wowed crowds across Iowa and eventually the nation with her impressive speed, hurdling skills, and her all-around versatility. If Alex wanted to, I'm pretty sure she could have won a state championship in every single event on the track and in the field. She was that good, and maybe more so than that, she was that determined. However, she focused on a few key events. She won the 100 hurdles 4 times, the 100-meter dash and the 400 hurdles 3 times each, and the 200-meter dash 2 times in an incredible career. She also ran for a state champion shuttle hurdle relay team in her freshman season. Gokenauer won 5 individual Drake Relays championships and another in the shuttle hurdle. She went on to compete collegiately at LSU before transferring to Arkansas, where she captured 2 first-team All-American honors in the pentathlon and 3 second-team All-American nods in the pentathlon and heptathlon. To present Alex Gokenauer into our KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome her father, Jeff Gokenauer.
Well, what do I say about Alex? Being as I was there at the beginning, I can tell stories clear back to when she was born. So I can tell you this, at 9 months to the day, this kid got up and she started running, and she couldn't stop. She ran into everything. And then it came to kindergarten, so she had Logan Magnolia has this little kid track meet for all the elementary. So the first track meet she entered, she wanted to do the frisbee throw, the softball throw, and the soccer kick. So I had to go to that and watch it. It didn't go very well. And that's when I decided to become her coach, because I said, no, you're going to run from now on. You got to do the running events. So then we got into that, and then she started to do the USA TAF track meets during the summer, and she turned out that she was good at everything. And AAU Nationals were at Drake Relays the year she was 11. And one of the parents said she hadn't qualified for this. You had to do a qualifying meet, and we didn't know anything about multi-event meets. So one of the parents said, if she's from Iowa, the home state gets to enter somebody without having a qualifying points. So we took her to that meet, knowing nothing about multi-events, and she won the national title in it. And then she went on to win 13 more national titles in the summer events, so she was quite the athlete, and still is. So I'd like to introduce my daughter, Alex Gokenauer. Oh, bring the rain.
Well, I can compete in front of thousands of people, but standing up here before you makes me want to vomit. So I'm going to keep this short and simple. I'd just like to say a few thank yous. Thank you to Derek and KMA for putting on this event. There's obviously some very talented inductees, and to be standing here amongst them is an honor. I have to thank my friends and family for supporting and loving me throughout my career. It started at the tender age of 9, and they were always there through the highs and lows. Thank you to all my coaches along the way, my coaches at Logan, Pam Olson, Jean Esser, and Judy Adair, as well as my club coaches, Scott Rainbow, John Whistler, and Greg Lapke, and many, many others. A special thank you to my mom and my little sister. They were drug all over the country, watched track meets in god-awful conditions, and they loved and supported me despite it. So a special thank you to them. And a very special thank you to my dad. As he pointed out, he started coaching me from a very young age. But thank you, Dad, for all the time that you poured into my dreams, for all of the fights, the laughs, the tears, the hours that we spent at the track. Those shaped me as a human and now as a coach. But thank you also to my loving boyfriend, Curtis. He supposedly cheered me on from afar, but that's hearsay. So anyway, thank you for everyone who attended tonight, and bring the rain.
That's Trevor, who I talked about earlier. Busy day for him. He's been in Audubon since like 7 a.m., I think, so we appreciate him getting here. While many of these athletes had major impacts on the track, the next inductee is someone that made his impact as a coach. Atlantic's Bruce Henderson coached for parts of 4 decades, captured countless conference titles, and 7 state track championships during his time leading the Trojans. Henderson competed in junior high, high school, and in college at the University of Northern Iowa, and then got into coaching. His coaching career was put on hold when he was drafted into the military, and when he came back from the military, Atlantic AD Roland Dyer asked him to coach girls track. Now, Coach Henderson says he wanted to focus on football and boys track. That's all he wanted to coach. However, Coach Bob Younger, who is a legendary figure himself, was in charge of both of those programs at that time. Dyer promised him he would give him those jobs when Younger retired if Coach Henderson had some success with the girls' track program. And he had some success, but he held on to that job all the way up to his retirement. He also took on the girls' cross-country job, winning 8 conference titles. As for the girls' track program, they won every single Hawkeye 10 championship, except for 2 from 1980 through 2003. The Trojans also won 7 state track championships, including 6 in a 7-year span from 1998 through 2004. Coach Henderson, unable to be here tonight, but to accept his induction, please welcome one of his fellow coaches, Barb Olson.
It's my honor to accept this award for Bruce as he is in Texas enjoying the beautiful weather. I was an assistant track coach with Bruce for 26 years under Bruce, so I was a part of all of his fame. Sorry. He's a great guy, and I think probably he's a great friend of ours too, and I also coached cross-country under him for 5 years, and then I started the middle school program with a lot of his help in Atlantic. And probably the thing that stands out the most to me that made Bruce the best coach or a really good coach was the fact that he could take average athletes and turn them into above average athletes, and he could take those above average athletes and move them on to the next level. Don Jenkins, which another legend, who I had the honor to coach with also with Bruce, had mentioned to me that that same fact, and he had an example where he was teaching, and a high school girl had come to him and said, you know, I want to go out for track, but I just want to go out because I want to lose weight and I want to become a football cheerleader. And so she came out for track her freshman year, and she definitely was an average athlete, but she became an above average athlete and had numerous state titles along with that. And I think we probably had several girl athletes in Atlantic that went out for track for the same reason, or the fact that they knew how successful Atlantic girls track was at that time, and they wanted to try it out too. I'm sure Bruce would have loved to have been here. I thought that he... Okay, good. I thought that he had a few words to say. He is a very, very humble person, and he would give a lot of credit to the athletes also. So thank you, KMA, and everybody else.
She's right. Bruce Henderson does have something to say.
Greetings from south and sunny and warm Texas. We're at South Padre Island, which is 18 miles away from our winter home in Brownsville, Texas. I've been blessed many times in my life. One of the biggest blessings is Gail, my wife of 50 years, which is in the picture with me. However, our 4 grandkids are close behind. I'd like to thank you, Derek, for initiating the KMA Hall of Fame Award and spending the extra time. I think it's a great deal. After it was posted I would be inducted, I immediately started hearing from people, so they do get on your website. After it got posted on Facebook, I probably heard from 30 or 40 former athletes, and many of those I had not heard from in a while. This is probably the best part of the honor, that is to hear from the people who are responsible for me being named, probably. I worked with several different coaches over the years. Don Jenkins in track, Barb Olson, who's here tonight in track and cross country, and Paul Eichel were of cross country were all with me for in excess of 20 years, so they deserve a lot of credit and were a big part of the success. ADs have played a big support role. One that stands out is a familiar name to Shenandoah people, Bob Sweeney. In closing, I would say thank you. It's been a great ride being a coach. Thanks again for honoring me, and some old-time entertainer used to say, thanks for the memories, and I'll close with that.
All right. Bruce Henderson. Up next, one of the most well-known names in track in KMA land history. Trainer legend Jerome Howe is a name synonymous with track in KMA land, and many of you have probably heard of the Jerome Howe Relays, which is an annual track meet in Trainer. There's a reason they decided to name that after him, by the way. 12 state championships between indoor and outdoor track during his time with the Cardinals. He was a 5-time winner of the Class C mile run, a 5-time state champ in the Class C mile medley relay, and a 2-time member of the Class C team mile competition. He was also a runner-up in the Drake Relays in 1967 and in 1968. And we're just getting started with him. He was outstanding boy athlete in the Midwest AAU region for 1967-68, a national junior Olympic champion in the mile in 1968. Also a 6-time Big East conference champion at K-State, a 4-time NCAA All-American in track, and a 2-time NCAA All-American in cross country. He was also the NCAA indoor champion in the 2-mile relay in 1969 and the first native Iowan to run a sub 4-minute mile. He's also a United States Olympic team member in 1972. He was inducted into the Drake Relays Hall of Fame in 1977, the Iowa Association of Track Coaches Hall of Fame in 1988. He's also a member of the K-State Track and Field Hall of Honor and the K-State Sports Hall of Fame. Tonight, he goes into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, and to present how, please welcome the current Trainer Boys track coach, Jeff Koink.
All right, first I'd like to echo just what an amazing job that Derek does just covering our student athletes in Southwest Iowa. And I went to high school with him, so if you want any stories, I can probably give you some of those. But yeah, like he said, I'm the head boys track coach at Trainer. I'm going in my 5th season this year. I was honored when Derek gave me the call and asked me if I would come and help introduce Jerome. I've never met Jerome until this evening, but we spent a lot of time talking about him. Obviously, he's got a lot of accomplishments and accolades. And for good reason, we do call our home track meet. We have one a year, and it's called the Jerome Howe Relays. This year will be the 46th running of the Jerome Howe Relays. So, like I said, we just spent a lot of time in our program. Any of our kids could tell you something about Jerome, and I'm going to turn it over to his coach.
Yes, interesting story that Jeff was going to be the lone presenter here until I think it was Thursday or so. I received a call, and it was from Jerome Howe's high school track coach. And I talked with Jerome a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, do you have any teammates, do you think, that would talk, or a coach or somebody? And he said, yeah, well, I actually am connected. I just recently reconnected with my high school coach, Mike Gilliott, and I don't want him to have to drive all the way from Fremont, Nebraska. He's got grandchildren and stuff going on probably. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And then Mike called me on Thursday, and he said, I want to be there. And so please welcome Mike Gilliott.
This is a little reflection on 51 years, so some of the facts are right, some of them are wrong. And I want to thank all the honorees that are here and Derek for putting this on, and he accepted my phone call, so I thought that was really good. The nice thing about Jerome, when we struck up a conversation a couple of months ago, and he talked about his daughter, and that he talked to his former coach, and she said, is he still alive? And so I just want to prove I'm still alive. And I have we're going to do a little reflection, a microcosm of Jerome Howe. 51 years ago, Jerome and the Cardinals came down to this Mustang relay race. It was spring of 1968. And so Larry Porter loved Jerome and the Cardinals, so he was always here representing the World Herald. And I'm going to read a little short blurb the next Wednesday what the World Herald said about Jerome, and you'll get a little better perspective of his whole life and how he ran his life and his values. So bear with me. This is, and most of this is true too. Some of the quotes are wrong, but it's okay. Jerome Howe captured many hearts at the Mustang Relays Tuesday night, which I thought was very fitting. Here we are in Shenandoah right now. The distance ace from Trainer ran his slowest mile of the year, but still set a record of 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Then it goes down, and because I told Jerome before we ran, I said, just run a doggy race, run slow, win it though. And so that's why he can blame me for that time, because everything else was faster. Strategic and a chest filled with courage told the story in the medley, because we wanted that medley. And every time we got together, we had a little huddle. We had Frankie McGuire, Jim Chambers, Merlin Avis, and of course our anchor, Mr. Santa Claus, would always provide. We would tell them, get the handoff quick, good starts, get Jerome in a striking position, and you guys will win a medal every time. And Jerome never failed. Trainer was third when, okay, so the strategic, so we were after the medley. Trainer was third when Merlin Avis dropped the baton during a handoff. And what did I just tell him, right? Don't drop the baton. He dropped it between Jim Chambers, and when Avis brought the baton to Hal, the anchor man was trailing the leader, Council Bluffs AL, by 50 yards. Hal erased that gap in less than a 440. He caught the Council Bluffs Lynx Don Coughlin at the end of the first lap. Jerome opened up a 10-yard advantage, but McLaughlin refused to concede. Caught Hal with 30 yards left. With a final burst, Hal lurched ahead and gave Trainer the record, 3 minutes and 37.8 seconds. The fastest time in the Southwest Iowa this year, and the fourth fastest in the all-time chart. And I just wanted to read that article because that is Jerome Howe. He never quit, and he had great company around him. And Larry Porter was always on our side and did a great job reporting. And then Jerome, as you know, just kept going and going. Now that's the athlete. But here's what I want to say about some exemplary examples of how Jerome lived his life. And there was so many I had to cut it down. And I'm a first-year coach, so I know how Jerome made me look good. I was calling Iowa State, K-State, and other coaches. I said, this guy is a winner. I need help. But here's some of the qualities of Jerome. He was very coachable, very humble, intellectual, kind, unselfish. And he's so kind, he didn't even want to invite me. He had a great sense of humor. And he was also a very moral person. He left a very big imprint on my life as a coach and as a person. Matter of fact, I brought my son. My first son was born Mark Allen Jerome Gilliott, and he's with us tonight too. So, and his family was superb. Romaine, his brother, Jeff, was a competitor, and he won the 440 in this article. And he ran fullback. He should be in this last. It was also, but he had a very strong and great values. Now, I don't want you to think that Jerome was an angel, because one time we were at the Big Red Relays at Mo Valley, and I was walking down looking at who was running and who was warming up, and Jerome hadn't run yet, and a girl walked by and said, "Hi, Jerome." Jerome stopped and spent maybe 2 seconds with her and said, "Hi." He runs over and says, "I'm sorry for not concentrating, Coach." As a good coach, I said, "And don't let it happen again." So let's bring on Jerome Howe. I might be able to beat him.
I'd like to, of course, thank KMA, and a special thanks to Derek. This is a lot of work. And a very special thanks to Coach Gilliott. I didn't know he was going to be here. I'm thrilled, and I didn't want to bother him. But, Coach, I'm so glad you're here. Coach Gilliott talked about the mile medley. The quarter miler on that mile medley that night is here, Frank McGuire from Trainer. And then another teammate of mine is here, Tom Winchell, also from Trainer. Both very fine athletes. But thank you, Coach. I haven't seen you in a long time. But anyway, it was great running track, coming from Trainer and great memories, and it'll be 52 years this spring when I graduated, and my coach is still alive. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the honor, and Coach Gilliott, thank you for being here. Frank, Tom, thank you for coming.
Yeah, it was actually, I saw them when they first saw each other tonight, too. As we said, Jerome didn't know that Coach Gilliott was coming. It was a pretty cool moment, I thought. Up next, one of the most successful multi-sport athletes in Farragut history, Carla Hughes, a 1978 graduate of the school, was a 4-time All-Corner Conference and a 2-time All-State choice in softball. Hughes was a key member of the 1976 state qualifying Adettes that set a state record for the fewest errors. Hughes, who played catcher, would go on to play softball at Creighton from 1979 to 1982, easing the Blue Jays' transition into a Division I school in 1980. Her former coach, Mary Higgins, called her, quote, tough as nails, and, quote, the ultimate field quarterback with more game sense than anyone she'd ever coached. Hughes was also a standout on the basketball court, playing for the legendary Leon Plummer, and helped the Adettes qualify for the 1976 state tournament. To present Hughes into this year's KMA Sports Hall of Fame class, please welcome her former softball coach at Farragut, Pat Shipley.
So first of all, I want to say thank you for being given this opportunity, but I'm also going to kind of go at a different go at this a little differently. I was a first-year teacher in 1975. I don't claim to be responsible for Carla's success, because those of us who taught at Farragut, it was a magical time, and we stood on the shoulders of Leon Plummer and Max Livingston. And so I really want to just sort of, as an observer, and I learned a lot there. I learned from those girls because they were going to win whether I helped them or not. But because of what I observed, I want to just do this as representative of what it was like to coach there and as one of her coaches. So one of the things that I knew that the girls learned was patience. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Farragut basketball, but they played a stall game, and you had to be patient. And one of the reasons I want to go about these things is because I believe Carla has carried these lessons through her life, and so that's what has made her the person that she is. They were about discipline. Those girls did pickup games. There wasn't league basketball. There wasn't any of that. It was pickup basketball. It was out at the barn or wherever the hoop was. They played softball with their siblings or the kids around Imogene. So it was all about discipline in that time. And it was about basics. It was back to the basics, learning how to do that from the time they were in elementary school, and it happened every weekend. It was about teamwork. That was the primary thing. It was about teamwork, and it was about integrity. It was about good sportsmanship. And so I've had the opportunity over the years to not only know Carla as a student athlete, and what did I know? I was 22, for crying out loud. But I have had the opportunity to know Carla as an educator, and one of the finest compliments as a teacher is to have a former student make the decision to go into education. And Carla is not only she's one of the many educators in the Hughes family. And so it's great that many of them are here this evening. So athletics is not always about the statistics. It's about the life lessons that you take with you. And I think that Carla learned those lessons. It's who she is, and it is my honor to introduce you to Carla Hughes.
Well, Derek told me there wasn't going to be a time to speak, or I didn't have to give a speech, but I came prepared, so just kidding. Just kidding. Oh, there's my phone. Okay. So anyway, first of all, I'd like to thank Derek and the KMA Land. I know he does a lot for the community, and I do appreciate the honor that he and the KMA Land have given me. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate all the other inductees. And thirdly, I'd like to thank my family, my friends that are here tonight. I'd like to thank some of the coaches' wives that are here. Pat Shipley, Leon Plummer's family's here. Also, Charlotte Livingston, Max's wife is here. And some of my former classmates and also teammates are here, and I appreciate them being here also. I've been very blessed to have the experiences I have had over the few years that I was at Farragut High School, also the elementary, at Creighton University, probably one of the best choices that I made, or maybe it was my dad made for me. But I am very blessed for them taking a chance on me and giving me the many opportunities that they have there. Anyway, I do appreciate this honor, and I am very proud of Farragut, the Adets. I'm very proud of Southwest Iowa, and keep moving on. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that, Carla. I did say if you want to talk, but, well. All right, thank you for that. All right, moving along to a star on the mat, on the gridiron, on the track, and on the baseball field. Our next inductee was a dominant standout for Clarinda. Bryant Hummel won a state wrestling championship. He earned a Division II football scholarship. He qualified for many state track events and was an outstanding multi-year starter in baseball as well. In 2009, right there, Hummel captured his state wrestling championship 1 year after he placed third. One of his goals wasn't to win the state championship. Well, that was a goal, but it was to not allow a single point in the entire state tournament. And he didn't allow a point. He met that goal. In football, he moved around a little bit. I know he was quarterback first, then he was a running back for a while, then quarterback, a running quarterback, and he caught the eye of the legendary Mel Churchma. Of course, he was also a fantastic two-way player, too, but he played for the Bearcats, who went on to win 2 national championships there at Northwest. Hummel also qualified for 10 state track events and earned a state medal in his junior season in the shuttle hurdle relay. Also a great baseball career as well, hitting .408 in his senior year. To present Hummel into this year's KMA Sports Hall of Fame, he's also in this picture. Please welcome his former wrestling coach, Josh Porter. Yeah, you go. It's all right.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you.
Hey, well, thanks, Derek, for allowing us to come. And if anybody, some of you guys know me a little bit. Now I'm not coaching anymore, but I'm the AD, and I love to talk. So I'm not, I got lots of words. If it's the right topic, I can talk for a really long time. So I'm excited up here to talk about Bryant just a little bit. we could talk about his accolades and things for a really long time, and it's really, Mr. Irvin's here as well. He was my AD while I was coaching, and Brian was an athlete, and he can attest to some of the things as well. But probably what I'm most proud of is, I came to Clarinda from Fort Dodge. I didn't have any family within 3 hours. I got there, I met a girl, I moved into an apartment, met a gal from Harlan. We got married. Bryant was in my wedding. I didn't know how long I was going to be in Clarinda at that time when I first got there. And, it was kids like him who made you want to stick around, and the people you worked with. And, so me and Bryant have lots of experiences together. We've had a great time, but probably, outside of all the things that he accomplished, he's went on to be an educator. Someone mentioned that earlier. It makes you really proud when you see kids go on and go into education. He's called me when he's got his first teaching job. He called me when he got his first coaching job. Now he's down in Kearney, Missouri as a coach. And I'm probably more proud of the coach he's become and the educator. And he's got a beautiful young family. Me and his family are still really close. My mom, like I said, lived 3 hours away. I still call his mom. She calls me and says, "What does my kid need now?" When I'm calling her, because she works at the school with me every day. So, Brian, as an athlete, was obviously very easy to coach, and you can tell he was a hard worker. He was very driven. I'm going to look at or talk about his junior year. We were at the state tournament. I don't know if we really knew how good we were at the time. We had high expectations. Our goal is always to win a state title. There was no other reason to be doing what we were doing if that wasn't our goal. And we had a setback. And sometimes everybody handles setbacks a little bit different. We were beating a kid that we should have beat, 5 seconds left, and we ended up losing the match. And me and him will probably never forget that moment. But watching him overcome that and get through and then finish in third place as a junior was just as much a joy for me to watch as it was for him to win a state title. And, sometimes you come short of your goals and you get through some things. I remember him going to Northwest as an athlete. I watched him bounce around from positions a little bit, always trying to find his way, ended up being a great contributor for Northwest and a great experience. And it's been a pleasure to know Brian. We don't nearly see each other hang out as much as we would like. We still text and call because we have those connections. But fine athlete, great young man, was a kid of high character. Academics was always of utmost importance to him. So it's my pleasure to welcome Bryant Hummel. I'm positive I could still catch him, but I don't really want to prove it right now with this big hole in the stage. So, we'll wait.
I asked him if we could recreate this picture a little bit ago, and he said his left ankle was hurting him. And that was his reasoning. So, hi. First, I'd like to thank KMA for recognizing me and giving me this great honor. Of course, I wouldn't be here without a few people. Coach Porter, for one, he came my junior year. Definitely would not have won a state title without him. All my Clarinda High School coaches and Northwest coaches. I'd like to thank my parents for all their support in high school and beyond. Playing at Northwest, they never missed a game. Even down in Texas, they traveled everywhere. My brother for being a great example and leading the way for me in high school. My grandparents who always traveled and supported everything I did as well. My teammates playing 4 sports. I played with a lot of people, and they all played a pivotal role in my high school career. Some of them caught my passes, blocked for me, caught my pitches, handed off the baton. Some of them even took a beating from me in the wrestling room. So thank you to them. Through all my high school memories, my favorite was this one. Definitely jumping into Coach Porter's arms. Thanks for not dropping me. So, from there, going on to win 2 national championships and multiple conference championships at Northwest were amazing memories. I want to thank the late Scott Boswick for giving this Clarinda kid a chance to play. High school and college athletics really shaped me into the teacher and coach that I am today. I want to thank everybody who had a hand in that. So, thanks again.
All right, another that unfortunately cannot be here tonight competed in the early portions of Shenandoah's golden era of the mid to late 1960s. Bob Livingston was a two-sport, all-state choice, a state champion in another, and a key member of many successful baseball teams. Livingston would earn a football scholarship at the University of Northern Iowa after claiming an all-state nod as a senior in 1965. A team captain of the state qualifying Shenandoah basketball team, he also picked up an all-state nod in hoops. Livingston was also a member of the famed 440-yard relay state champion from Shenandoah in 1965, along with Denny Williamson, Bruce Ketchum, and Bob Cox. In baseball, he hit .318 and was a standout pitcher for Shenandoah's very strong team in 1965. Now, at Northern Iowa, Livingston played baseball and was a starting punter and free safety for the Panthers. He graduated with a degree in education before studying at the Illinois College of Optometry in Chicago. Unfortunately, Livingston lost his battle with cancer in 2012. However, tonight we honor him in the KMA Sports Hall of Fame. And first, with a special message that is from his former football coach at Shenandoah, Lee Zentig.
Bob was a all-around, all-American type individual. Big, strong, fast, good-looking, good student in school, play football, basketball, could run in track, he could do it everything. And he was a great leader, too. I remember Bob was, in football, he was a running back, basically. But the first year I had Bobby Cox at quarterback, and he was a very good quarterback, and then he graduated, and we didn't have anybody except Van Bronson was a freshman. And so I had to go to Bob Livingston. I said, Bob, we need a quarterback, and you're the best athlete in this class, so I need you to play quarterback. And he goes, well, I'd like to play running back, but if you really need me to play quarterback, I'll do it. And so he did, and he was he's not a natural quarterback, but just a really great athlete. Well, he kept saying, well, Van Bronson could do this, he could do it. And I said, well, he's too young. Let's just let him play defense right now, and we'll have you at quarterback. And so he said, well, okay. And, we were down in Glenwood, Iowa playing, and Bob Livingston had to slip the contact, and I put Van in. Well, we got his contact taken care of, and before I could get Van out, he threw for a touchdown. And right away, Bob was right in my face, and he said, see, Coach, I told you he could play. And so I moved Bob back to running back, and he was more comfortable there, and Van and a quarterback, and we really had some great teams. We only lost one game in 3 years, so very good athlete, outstanding athlete. Well, he was one of our leaders. He was our team captain. So, he would play any place I would want him to, but he played both offense and defense, and played safety on defense. And so we would go to him on running backs. He was powerful, yet he had speed. He was a sprinter. And so, he was very good. And the leader part of it was really great, and he was a leader in all sports. He was just worked so hard in track, built himself up, and I think after he played, I lost contact because I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, but apparently he was a very good athlete in Northern Iowa also. So, and the thing is, his leadership really helped our team. A very good student, just trained hard and worked hard in all sports. And so, the kind of guy that the coach really loves to have on a team because he's basically another coach. He's a lot of fun to coach. He enjoyed playing. Other kids respected him and got along with everybody. He's a leader in our school, too. He was, I think he was like maybe a class president and hops in the student council and all that type of thing, too. So, he's just an outstanding kind of person that you like to have on a team. You have a few of those over the years. I coached for 35 years. You don't get one every year, but Bob was one of those unique people that really contributed to the success of the team.
Once again, as his former football coach, Lee Zentik, I'd like to welcome to the stage now to officially accept induction for the late Bob Livingston, many members of his family.
We want to thank KMA for this honor and Derek, and I don't think there's much more to be said that you've heard from Coach Sinek, and Bob was he set the gold high for all of us in his family. We never matched it, but and he was an excellent brother to have, of course, and we miss him. I'm his younger brother. Another younger brother's up there. And this is his son, Andrew, and his daughter, Megan. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Well, thanks to KMA, and thank you to Derek and to my father's cousin, Clyde, who helped let Derek know about some of those legendary stories, which apparently were true. And thank you, Jim, for telling us some more of those stories. Thank you very much.
I want to note that he was right. Clyde Maxwell was a very big help in this, and I appreciate him getting those statistics and everything else lined up there. As a Hall of Fame athlete and person, it sounds like. The engineer behind one of the area's most powerful small-class baseball teams is next. Bob Mantell put his heart, his soul, and almost all of his time into turning trainer baseball into a state power. In 14 years, Mantell turned a program hard on its luck into 300-plus wins, 11 conference championships, and 4 state tournament appearances. Mantell, who retired this past summer, found a program in bad shape in 2006. They were 6-16 in his first year. They were 9-16 in year 2, but then in year 3, things started to turn around. From 2009 through 2019, Mantell oversaw at least 23 wins in every season except for 1. In the other season, they won 19 and went to the state tournament. Mantell was the 2015 2A Southwest District Coach of the Year by the Iowa High School Baseball Coaches Association. He was our 2018 KMA Land Baseball Coach of the Year, and he also spearheaded the design of a new baseball field at Trainer in 2009, helping to create bullpens, a second batting cage, also a wonderful baseball clubhouse and press box, one of the best of its kind in the state. He put everything into the program, and it wasn't just on the field. To present Coach Mantell into our KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome his son, Nolan Mantell.
Well, all I can say is congratulations, Dad. This is a very tremendous honor. Thank you, Derek. Thank you for KMA for recognizing his accomplishments, but just kind of awarding kind of his hard work, his humility. He, like Derek alluded to, he put his heart and soul into everything he did on the baseball field, off the baseball field, to try to make sure that the players, the coaches that were around the program came in and had fun, but also understood the hard work it took to achieve the success and the goals that he set forward. He sacrificed a lot to be able to put all of his dedication into the program. I know he is a very humble person, without taking any credit for wins and taking it kind of to heart for losses. He always made sure that the kids were put in the best positions to succeed, and that they had the most fun they could every summer they were out. So without further ado, Bob Mantell.
Well, first of all, again, I'd like to echo the sentiments of many tonight by thanking Derek and KMA for this award. I'm very, very humbled and honored to be here, to be recognized with this fantastic group of people, and very appreciative of the honor and the opportunity to be here. Do want to mention very quickly, Bryant, where are you? I remember you, and I remember we could never get you out. I know you had as much success on the baseball diamond, I'm sure, as you did on the wrestling mat and the football field, so I remember you well. I've been blessed to have a great support structure around me while coaching at Trainer. My assistant coaches over the years, and I'll name them, Eric Allen, Nigel Horton, Thad Nelson, Kemp Ponsolo, Rob Riggs, Bob Daly, Scott Wallace, and of course my son Nolan. They were all very instrumental in the success our program achieved in my 14 years as head coach, and I thank them all very, very much for their hard work and their dedication to our program. But without question, my greatest thank yous go to my family. Most people don't realize, outside of fellow coaches and their families, and those of you who are in the room, I know you know what I'm going to be talking about here, the time demands that go into establishing and sustaining a successful program. Being the head coach at Trainer wasn't just a job for me. It, along with my family, really was life. It was a 24/7, 365 commitment, very much a labor of love. But there's no doubt the amount of time I'd spend in the off-season working on scheduling, camps, fundraising, field improvements, more fundraising. Everybody knows all about that if you're a coach. It was as significant as it was the time that I spent on the field in the summertime. For the 14 years that I coached, I really totally and completely immersed myself into the program because I wanted it to be the very best that it could be. And because of that, I fully recognize I didn't spend nearly enough time at home as I wish I could have. And so for that, I'm very thankful to my wife, Kristen, and my daughter, Quinn, and I'd like you two to stand up and be recognized. So go ahead and stand up, Kristen and Quinn. Thank you. They supported me all along the way, and they had a love, maybe not a love, a like, for the game, certainly, though, and was supportive for my sons, Nolan and Grant. And by the way, I'm very proud of my son Grant today. He just graduated from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln today, and he's going on to law school. So it was a great day for the Mantells today. I'd also like to thank my dad, Mike, and my mother-in-law, Carol, for their support over the years. My dad, he's been a regular attendee at all of my games ever since I was playing Little League in Carter Lake in the 1970s. From Little League to high school at TJ in Council Bluffs, to playing collegiately at Creighton, to coaching at Trainer, and my dad's been there all along the way, and he's always been there to support both me and my family. And Dad, I really appreciate that. The same goes for my mother-in-law, for Carol. She's mom to me and has been ever since 1985. She's always supported me and her grandsons. She's sewn toward pants, washed our uniforms, you name it, she's done it. And so I'm grateful for that, Mom. Thank you. When I was offered the Trainer job in September of 2005, as Derek had mentioned, the program was not in the best of shape. We'd had very minimal success over the most previous few years. Baseball really wasn't very popular in the community, and we had a tough time getting the better athletes to come out to play. The first couple of years were a bit of a challenge to change the culture and try to get the kids to buy into what we were doing, trying to get them to believe that if they played hard and believed in themselves, they could achieve success. But as Derek said, in year 3, we started to turn things around a little bit and had some success. And then from there on through this past season, 2019, we did pretty well. We established a pretty good program, and one that I'm very proud of. We were able to win over 300 games. And I say we, it was my players and my coaches, it was all of us, and mostly the players. They did a tremendous job, and they were great kids. And although I'm proud of the conference titles, the state tournament berths, the records, those are great, but really what I'm most proud of is the kids that I've coached at Trainer. They were all tremendous young men, tremendous sons, tremendous brothers, in some cases now tremendous fathers. They played the game the right way, and they represented our community with class and dignity, and really that's my main takeaway, and that's what will sustain the smile on my face for many years to come. So thank you once again for this honor. I'm very humbled by it and appreciate it very much.
Nolan was also Coach Mantell's his greatest fan, I think, because anytime I would pick against Trainer, Nolan would be lighting me up on Twitter. He was relentless. All right, we had Bob Livingston, we had Bob Mantell, and now we've got another Bob, another great coach as well, Bedford's Bob McCoy. The legend spent 37 years as the head or the co-head coach for the Bulldogs, finishing his career with 227 wins. Coach McCoy helped lead Bedford to its first and only state football championship in 1992, and he was also the head man in 1998 when they were the state runner-up. Coach McCoy was a 2008 inductee into the Iowa Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame and led the Bulldogs to 17 state playoffs, including 5 in his final 7 years and a streak of 9 straight from 1992 to 2000. McCoy was also the Class A Iowa Football Coaches Association Coach of the Year in 2011. To present Coach McCoy into our KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome a former player of his, a former assistant coach of his, and now the guy who followed him as a head coach, current co-head coach at Bedford, Matt Ambrose.
Last time I was dressed up in front of a crowd like this was at a wedding, and to give a speech there, I had a little bit of help in form of some courage, and I don't see anything up here, so I think I'll stick to the script and try not to screw this up. I am honored today to be able to introduce Bedford's Coach Bob McCoy into the KMA Hall of Fame. I say Bedford's in a possessive manner because to all of us Bulldogs out there, Coach McCoy is Bedford. More than that, and perhaps more accurately, he is synonymous with the community. This association was developed over the course of a teaching and coaching career that spanned the better part of 4 decades and impacted the lives of thousands of young people. Derek has went through a lot of his stats as a football coach. He was also a wrestling coach at times. He was a track coach for a long time. I don't need to rehash those, but I think perhaps the most impressive part of his coaching career as far as the statistics go is that in the years from 1992 through 2000, which marked the beginning of the district football system in the state of Iowa, Coach McCoy's teams lost only 2 district football games in 9 years. They had a very impressive 84-18 record in that span, winning 1 state title and finishing runner-up another time. I've emphasized at the beginning of this Coach's connection to the community. And for some that don't understand the impact a high school football coach can have, that may seem ludicrous. How can a single man that teaches a game have that kind of impact? If you'll bear with me for a minute, I'll try to explain. In a commencement address at the University of Texas in 2014, U.S. Navy Admiral William McRaven challenged the graduates to change the world. He went on to say that the average human will meet 10,000 people throughout their life, effectively giving them the opportunity to do just that. By my calculations, in Coach's 27 years, and I'm no mathematician, he coached and taught at least 1,000 young men, a very conservative estimate, as for much of the 90s, the Bedford football roster was over 80 names long, one year even topping the century mark. which again, that speaks to the quality of person that Coach McCoy was, that many young men wanted to be a part of that program. At one point when I was in high school, I think there were 5 boys in high school that weren't out for football. A lot of that was due to Coach. But if those 500 each take the lessons they learned from Coach, things like hard work, leadership, resilience, toughness, empathy, and in general, just doing the right thing, and positively impact the lives of just 20 people, and those 20 do the same thing, then in just two generations, the lives of 100,000 people will have been changed by Coach McCoy. Take that a little bit further, and in 6 generations, 6.4 billion lives will have been changed, and it can truly be said that Coach changed the world, making his impact on little old Bedford a small, yet very important footnote in his overall legacy. In preparing for this evening, I've ran across so many stories of Coach. Literally everyone I've talked to has been excited to share their memories. They remember him for bringing weightlifting to Bedford and the countless hours he spent in there allowing kids to work, for his meticulous care of the football field, making it one of the finest surfaces in all of Iowa, and for his unwavering support during times of adversity. One former player related that a decade after his time at Bedford had ended, him and his wife had divorced, and during the Christmas season, he didn't have any money to buy his 4 young kids presents. But miraculously, on December 15th, a letter arrived with $200 and a note that simply said, "I believe in you. Have a Merry Christmas." The note was unsigned, but for that former player, there was no doubt who it came from. He recognized the lion by his paw, or perhaps the bulldog by his paw. The central theme in almost all the memories shared was that Coach cared. Plain and simple, he cared. This, more than any of his accomplishments, and there were many, is his true legacy. Over the years, Coach has been my teacher, coach, mentor, landlord, and most of all, my friend. It is with great pride that I introduce my friend, Coach Bob McCoy. Coach wants to thank his family, the community of Bedford, and everybody that's here tonight, and Derek Martin and KMA for all that they've done. Thank you.
All right, up next we have our third KMA Sports Eberly Family Legacy Award winner. Larry Murphy is a native of Bradyville. He's a founder and longtime contributor of the State Line League, a staple of summers in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa. Murphy founded the Youth Baseball League in the mid-1970s, and he continues to play an impact part in that league. The State Line League was about competition. It is about competition, but Murphy applied his knowledge and he turned it into an instructional league as well for kids from ages 5 on up to 15. Murphy founded the Bradyville and the College Springs teams and helped in its expansion into other towns across KMA land. Murphy has played a large role in developing many of the best baseball players in this area for over 40 years. To present Murphy into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome his son and also a former State Line League player, Scott Murphy.
What a wonderful event this is tonight, and thank you very much to KMA for allowing us to be a part of this, and thank you to Derek for all the hard work that went into this. This is an incredible night to kind of relive all these amazing accomplishments by each and every one of you. So hats off to everybody here. It's been a lot of fun to observe and hear everybody speak, and to now get to speak on behalf of my dad, which is mind-blowing. So when I was a young kid, I always thought that my dad knew more about baseball than anyone I'd ever met, and now I'm 36, and I know that he knows more about baseball than anyone I've ever met. It was a little over 4 decades ago that my dad recognized the need for an instructional league in northwest Missouri and southwest Iowa. And every kid, you know, he always thought every kid that had the desire and the want to play baseball should have the opportunity to learn the game properly and also be in an environment where they can thrive and have a good time. So the league came to be when Dad and a few of the neighboring coaches created what would be called the State Line League. Bradyville was located, or is located essentially in the middle, is where my dad coached. So from the mid-'70s to the early 2000s, he coached and taught the game to droves of kids. Every kid that wanted to join was welcome, and that went for boys and girls. I competed with boys and girls from 5 all the way up to 15, which was fantastic, and the league allowed for the production of many talented baseball and softball players. So now I've had the amazing opportunity to meet people from northwest Missouri, southwest Iowa, and towns I normally probably wouldn't frequent every summer, and become lifelong friends with them who I still keep in touch with today and share stories about Dad and their coaches and their experience that they've had as well. So I think my family would agree that each year when summer came around or spring, baseball season would kind of roll out, was our favorite time of year. We look forward to it, and you couldn't wait to get that new mitt that you may have got for Christmas busted in, and you had to, you might have to play in the snow for a little bit, but once April and May rolled around, you were ready to play baseball. I'd see Dad and Mom work all day and night and then come home and still carry the excitement for the game and everybody that was involved year after year. I think at that point back in the day, my dad knew that this league was something bigger than he was, and my mom as well. So it was for the community and all the kids. And he'll still tell you that it's a very rewarding experience. So everything from field preparations that went into it, around the calendar, to transporting cars full of players from town to town, all over the region, and coaching the games, keeping score during the games, and then when that finished, planning the next season. So there, a lot of things come into play. And when you want to have success and build something like this, I think there's a ton of things that have to come into play, but a few of them, firstly being you have to appreciate the game, and Dad appreciates the game. Second, you need a supportive community, and by and large, the community that's around us in southwest Iowa, I think the crowd itself kind of speaks to that in northwest Missouri, that we had the opportunity in an amazing community to produce something like this and keep it running and build that foundation on it. But above all, it is a game, and so I'd also like to mention that you need to have fun, and that was Dad's first and foremost rule. I remember on several occasions he'd say, there's a reason that they don't call it work ball, because what would be the fun in that? So you kids go out there and you play ball and you have a good time. If you're not having a good time, what's the point? Dad was always, and still continues to be, a beacon of positivity, but that doesn't mean he couldn't give me, or anyone else for that matter, a really good, I would call it a shoeing, but he would probably call it a teaching moment. On one occasion, I was probably 14 or 15, and we were playing a game against Claremont for the league championship, and we were in Bradyville, and we had a really good crowd for what I thought it was fantastic. And I think that was back when you had the 10-run rule. And Dad always had a rule: don't slide headfirst into home, because very dangerous. And I saw that we were winning, and I think I was on first or second, and I had the opportunity to score. And when I did, I slid headfirst into home. And while everybody else on my team celebrated the victory and got to chit-chat with their families and friends, I ran. And that was a really good teaching moment, because it's always important to listen to your coach, because they have your best interests in mind, whether that be your dad or he's just your coach, your lifelong friend. So this evening I can say with great pride that the State Line League still thrives and is seemingly bigger than ever. My family and I are extremely thankful and appreciative of Dad's recognition. The legacy of the State Line League and Bradyville baseball would not be what it is without the so many hardworking families within the communities surrounding Braddyville and Northwest Missouri and Southwest Iowa. So we'd like to thank you for that as well. On behalf of my family, we'd like to thank all of the community members that were involved in that as well. It's a true honor for me to present the KMA Legacy Award to my dad, Larry Murphy.
Well, thank you, Scott. I kind of thought there for a moment this was going to turn into a roast, but it didn't. So thank you very much for that nice acknowledgement. And I'd like to thank Derek and KMA. Being nominated for the award was just a true privilege. I mean, I really felt great about it, but to be selected is a true honor, and I really do appreciate it. I was in Maryville a week after Derek notified me that I'd been selected for this, and a young lady came up to me and shook hands with me. She said, "I don't know who you are, but I know you won the Legacy Award at KMA for the Eberly family." So the word gets out pretty fast. So thank you very much. Coach, all that time that I coached without having a great support group. My wife was our scorekeeper, and sometimes when games got really tough, the other team found out that she was the official scorekeeper. But she always did a good job, and she took care of the dugout, and a lot of times I'd look in the dugout from third base and say, "You're on your own, guys." But she kept law and order there, and we had a really great time. And we started out with 5 teams and played just, trying to teach kids to play the game right. You get up into high school and you start playing in a game, that's a really poor time to have to learn how to play. So we had always led with the mindset that know how to play the game when you go on the field. So that's what we always did, and they still do that today. The State Line League has grown from 5 teams from back in the late 70s, and now there's 14 teams down there. Some of them have as many as 60 kids participating, so you start multiplying that and you're up to several hundred. I know we had a tournament down there in Braddyville this year, and I know the population went from 150 to about 500 just like that when everybody came into town. But again, we got my family's here tonight, and I think we got 3 rows down here in the middle, and I want to thank everybody, every one of them, for being here and for all their support. All of our family's been very, very involved in baseball and all the other sports and supporting their families and their kids, and I really, really do appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Before we move on, I want to explain, I probably should have done that already, but our Legacy Award, it's started with the Eberly family, which has been so impactful in this area when it comes to running the Clarinda A's. We look for groups or people that have had an impact, maybe not directly on, like just from where we're at here with the high school level, but as a whole in this area. So that's definitely Larry Murphy. One of the most successful coaches in state history is up next. 10 state tournaments, countless conference championships, and a gymnasium in his name. The late Leon Plummer left an immeasurable legacy. Plummer, a member of the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union Hall of Fame, led 10 teams to state tournaments: 59, 63, 66, 67, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, and 76. In 1971, he and his fantastic assistant coach, has been mentioned a couple of times already, Max Livingston, helped Farragut reach the ultimate in winning the all-class state championship by beating Mediapolis in the final. Plummer directed 426 wins against just 68 losses, putting together an incredible 139-game win streak against corner conference schools. Plummer's .862 winning percentage is still the second-best winning percentage in Iowa girls basketball history. To present Coach Plummer into our KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome a former player of his, Janelle Gruber-Kraska.
first word that pops into my head when talking about Mr. Plummer is respect. Everyone who knew him would agree with me. His students in his classroom, all the adults, parents, peers, fellow conference coaches, and even those who didn't even know him. He earned this respect by his work ethic and mutual respect he exhibited in his life. Another factor in his successful coaching career was discipline. On the court, this began with wind sprints, wall pushes, push-ups, and then came the basics of ball handling, shooting, defensive moves through repeated drills and simulations, and then more repeated drills, and then more repeated drills. This took discipline on our part to practice intensely until we were experts at our jobs. And for sure, Mr. Plummer must have had an extra helping of discipline to work so tirelessly with a bunch of girls who needed a lot of direction. As we developed the discipline, the teamwork followed. Coach knew that as we developed as players, we would be more consistent, which would directly lead to team building. He knew that playing as a team was the secret, not so secret, ingredient. I'm reasonably sure we didn't have the most athletically talented players at the state tournament, but no one, absolutely no one, had a better team. We were well prepared and depended on each other to play our part to the best of our ability. And everyone did have a part. He and assistant Max Livingston demonstrated this teamwork for us each and every day. Another thing that Coach did every year was make a list of goals for our upcoming season. This always included things like win the conference tournament, win the sectional and district tournaments. These goals kept us on track and gave us something to shoot for. But the most important goal was something like learn to be a better person, or act like a lady off the court, or respect our school. The longer I was his student, the stronger I felt that these were the most important words that he spoke to us. He knew that the skills we developed on the court or in the classroom were going to stay with us and help us become responsible citizens. And most certainly the words he spoke to us would translate into successful and productive lives that we could be proud of. Mr. Plummer was so wise and so clever. The best story in '71 came in the championship game. We were up against one of the best forwards in the state, Barb Wishmeyer of Mediapolis. She was 6 feet tall and had some good moves and a good shot down low. She scored a few points early, but Coach Plummer somehow sensed a weakness in her. He put in Tanya Bopp, a 5-foot scrappy guard who wasn't afraid of anything. And one of Tanya's talents was drawing the charging foul. Okay, that might have looked workable on paper, but when the two of them stood side by side, everyone's mouths dropped. There was no way that Tanya was going to be able to handle Miss Wishmeyer. But she did. Tanya moved in front of Barb as she was making a move to the lane to post up and drew the foul. Barb was completely shocked. The next time down the court, Tanya got in her way again. And by now, total frustration got the best of Barb, and she just wasn't the same the whole rest of the game. Probably the most endearing trait Leon Plummer exhibited was his humbleness. Here was a man that could take a bunch of run-of-the-mill kids and mold them into champions. Yet, he picked Malvern or Essex or Stanton to win the conference every year in a preseason newspaper poll. In a profession where arrogance is sometimes the rule, Mr. Plummer was the standard for fair play and humility. After we won the state championship in '71, there was a dinner in our honor at one of the swanky restaurants in Des Moines. When we walked in, there were a few waitresses who were hustling about. We were so excited it took us a few minutes to even realize that they were removing the orange and black frosting on the cake and taking down the black and orange decorations. Oops, Mediapolis didn't win. And we had no blue and white decorations. That scene may have upset some coaches, but not ours. We all had a big belly laugh about being the underdogs who slayed the giant. Coach had a great sense of humor. He loved to laugh and joke and tell stories. One of his best pranks came at the state tournament. He shot disappearing ink on one of the reporters. The incident made the papers, and I'm sure he got a kick out of getting the biggest laugh of the week. His sense of humor also came in handy with the long half times at state. He knew he had to keep us relaxed and settled down while waiting for the crowd at Vets Auditorium to be entertained by the dance teams and handsome young floor sweepers dressed in tuxes. He'd tell some silly jokes and stories about his long-lost uncle who was coming to Des Moines from Alaska. And would we please win this game for him so his uncle could see us play on Saturday night? I graduated from high school and went on to become a teacher and coach. He was a huge influence on my teaching and even more so on my coaching. I had fallen in love with the game of basketball while playing for Coach Plummer and had the privilege to share that love with many others. There are so many more stories and tales to be told about the great Leon Plummer and his wisdom and kindness and generosity and his love of family. But my time is up. My wish tonight is for everyone in this auditorium to remember Mr. Plummer and the legacy he built and how we are all better people for having known him. I'd like to introduce Mr. Plummer's son, Gary. His daughter, Pixie, is also here.
Thank you, Janelle. I remember well watching her on that championship team in 1971, and after that upset, I think I was in the 8th grade. My dad came over and saw me and other members of the family, and I can remember crying like a baby that night. It was just the most special moment of my life at that point, and I was so proud of him and his team, and proud of seeing some of my classmates from 1976 at Farragut High School, which was the last year that he coached. Very proud of Carla Hughes and her legacy in the sports world and her honor tonight. Congratulations, Carla. Great to see old friends like Coach Shipley. Coach Kemp, you probably didn't know that you were our friend from Fremont Mills, but we respected your school and your team very much. It was great to see a familiar face here tonight. 76 was his last year of coaching, and he retired actually in March after the state tournament, and 2 months later died suddenly. And my sister Pixie, who is now a doctor at the University of Iowa Med School, was only 5 at that time. His 2 grandsons who are with us tonight, Sam and Ethan Leon, of course weren't even around at that time, but they're very proud of their grandfather's legacy. And it really means a lot to the family that KMA would help keep that legacy alive 43 years after he passed. That means so much. Thank you very much.
The single greatest volleyball player in KMA land history is next. A 4-time state champion, an Iowa State All-American, and a trendsetter for our KMA Sports video interviews, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. Jess Shaven was truly an irrepressible talent. She had over 2,000 kills. She hit over 400 in all 4 of her seasons of her high school career and accumulated nearly 300 blocks for Harlan. She helped the Cyclones capture a pair of state volleyball and state basketball championships during her career. In 2013, the Cyclones were the first KMA land volleyball team to win a state championship. In 2014, they were the second. And then Shaben and her teammates would quickly turn around, start focusing on basketball, and run off 2 consecutive undefeated state basketball championship seasons as well. Now, the trend setting for the video interviews, we started doing this right around when Jess, I think when she was a freshman, and the more I interviewed her, the more I think she got a little comfortable, and she'd just start swaying along in the videos, and then she'd be holding the mic, and she's swinging the mic around like this, and that kind of caused some audio issues. So now all the interviews we do, I hold the mic. So thanks for that, Jess. And to present Jess Shaben into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome her mother and also one of her former coaches, Carrie Shaben.
Oh, it's funny. On the way down, Jess is like, "Mom, you're not going to cry, right?" I said, "Well, I'll try." And then she's like, the second thing she's worried about is what picture is Derek going to pick out? Because she was horrified of that. I do thank you, KMA and Derek and everybody, and for all of y'all to being here tonight. When Jess was 3, I knew we had created a monster. All she wanted to do was play out in the yard, nonstop. You know, sorry, Mr. Clausen. I think his wife I saw was here. He coaches basketball in Harlan. I tried to get her to pick up the orange ball, but she never would. It was always the white one. She wanted to play volleyball. And, you know, we lived out in the country, and, you know, so I couldn't really send her down the road to play with the friends. And her brothers, for whatever reason, didn't want to have anything to do with her at that time. And so, you know, Mom was always stuck out in the yard playing with her. But I will tell you this, it was the greatest pleasure of my life. So thank you very much. And you know, without too much more to say, I would like to introduce my lovely daughter, Jess Shaben. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, I wanted to share this with you guys. This Derek, Derek used to do our games, and he used to get into them a lot. And one of my favorite memories is this video clip, or this audio clip. So hold on a second.
Wagner's ready. Cyclones ready to explode. Here's the serve, dug by Smith, chased by Nearad, wide to Cave, big swing down the line, Wagner's there, Swanson, Shaben, blocked by Meade, pushed up by Wagner, back to Shaben, another swing, and it's nearly down, what a hustle, free ball over to the Cyclones, what a play by Solon, back to Shaben with a tip, Riley Smith is there, Nearad, backside Runge off the block, saved by Claver, over to Solon, tipped and saved by Mosier, here's Knudsen with a set, roll shot by Wagner, blocked by Meade, Swanson with a setter dump, another save by Solon. And a swing from Cave is blocked by Shaben, pushed by Mosier. Back to Jess with a tip. Another great save by Solon. Riley Smith over to Runge. Cross court, dig by Mosier. Wagner to Knudsen with a swing. Blocked back to the Cyclones. Swanson, Shaben, and a kill. In the net is Solon. State championship point coming up. Shaben was going to get the kill anyway, but Solon was in the net, and man, did they hustle. A girl was behind the chair umpire on that free ball to save it. But 4 state championship points. Here's Wagner. It's over. And a good dig by Smith. Nearad to Meade with a swing. Cross court. Claver digs. Here's Swanson. Shaben off the block. It's down! Harlan is a state champion! For the first time in the history of Southwest Iowa, on the 29th kill from Jess Shaben, the Cyclones win the state championship.
Thank you, everyone. That was really cool. I promise to not hold the mic because I don't want to break it. Because I've done that before, so I promise you I won't do that. I just want to thank my family, my mom and dad. They've traveled with me everywhere. I played club in Omaha, so we'd go there like 3 times a week, so thank you for all you've done for me. My fiance Will's here. He's been with me since 8th grade, so he's been along for the ride too, so I want to thank him. Yeah, my coaches, Spang, Angie Spangenberg, Mr. Swanson, Deb Graffenton, Christy Johnson, all the coaches, and Claussens, obviously. Yeah, I have a lot of coaches to be thankful for. I probably missed some, so I'm sorry. But yes, thank you for this honor. KMA has been there, obviously, through it all. So, yeah, thank you.
She was pretty good. All right, to introduce this next athlete, I want to quote a broadcaster that I know pretty well. It went like this: "There's never been anyone like Kate Walker, and there will never be another like her." I said that, actually. Walker, a 5-sport athlete at Red Oak, made history in her senior year. She competed in 5 sports and went to state in 5 sports: cross country, volleyball, basketball, track, and tennis. She was hardly like a bystander or role player or anything like that. She was the star on most of these qualifiers, the high finisher and low scorer for the state cross country team, the top hitter for her state volleyball semifinalist, a 20-point per game scorer for the state basketball qualifier, a 5th place state medalist winner in the half mile, and a state runner-up in tennis. Walker went on to an all-conference career at Bucknell University, played basketball, leading the Bison to the NCAA tournament. In high school, she hit all of the milestones you can hit: 1,000 career points, 1,000 career kills, multiple state trips in volleyball, basketball, track, and tennis. And as I said, there was nobody like her before. There won't be another one like her after. To present Walker into the KMA Sports Hall of Fame, please welcome her former basketball and tennis coach, Coach Dan Martinez. Also a Hall of Famer, by the way.
First, I got to thank Derek and everything he does for Southwest Iowa. It is my pleasure to introduce Red Oak Supergirl to this extraordinary group. She is the daughter of Johnny and Kathy Walker. My first memory of that family was always very supportive. Was her grandparents, Gordon and Barb Reisinger. I had just moved to Red Oak in 1976, and I get this phone call: "Would you teach my family to play tennis?" I said, "Well, sure. What time?" Monday morning, 6:30. You can be at school by 8. So that was my first experience with the family. Now, the Reisingers, they had their own tennis court. Kathy and John, they have their own tennis court. So I didn't have any problem with the fact that this young lady was going to be a tennis player. But she also shared the other love that I have, and that's basketball. Now, I've worked with a lot of young people. In Red Oak, I'd start them when they were 3 years old, and it took me a while to become a master of Simon Says, but I would teach these little 3-year-olds that it was fun to be at the tennis courts. But for those of you that, and I know many of you coaches, this extraordinary group here, you can just look in an athlete's eyes, and you know you got something special. And Kate had no time for Simon Says. So she had that look and kept it through all her career. After 24 years of coaching boys basketball, and yes, I had some memories from Tri-Center in '95, and some memories that came back. I was going to coach girls basketball, and somebody's asked me, "So what's the difference?" Well, we were discussing some memories with some of our former players, and the first one was my first game. I called a timeout, and it was a 30-second timeout. Well, the girls came off the floor. They talked the entire timeout. They went back on the floor. I hadn't said a word. And I said, that was one thing that was different. Well, the second game, Kate comes to me, and she says, "I don't know if I can play tonight, Coach. Both my heels are all blistered up." Well, she was in our mini-singer group, and one of the other girls, her shoes didn't fit, so Kate gave her shoes, and her shoes were too small, and sure enough, they were all blistered up. But I introduced her into second skin, and she went on and played, and played well. But other than that, those were the two only differences I saw, because the competitiveness and the spirit was there. I got to, Leon Plummer's being inducted. I was a freshman at Central College in 1971, and I'm watching the TV, and there's this girls' state basketball tournament. And I'm from New Jersey. I'd never seen a girls' basketball game. And I'm saying, what a tremendous event. I mean, it was amazing. The crowd, the girls, the way they played. I didn't know much about 6-on-6 basketball, but they made such a great show. And when I took the job here in Red Oak in '76, I get a call. It was from the boys' basketball coach at Farragut. Now, I remembered Farragut because of where it was, but I had no idea where it was. So I took my team and we scrimmaged at Farragut, the Leon Plummer gym, and what a great tradition. And this team won the entire state. I had it hard to believe. But, it was amazing that they won the entire state. And I coached 6-on-6, my very first coaching job. And I didn't know about that rule that you can't knock the ball out of their hands. We set a record for fouls in that first game. I went on to coach boys then, because with my girls, if they won, they cried. If they lost, they cried. If you yell at them, they cried. And sometimes they just cried. So, but, again, Kate, she won 109 tennis matches for me, and was a two-time state runner-up. And I'll always introduce her as a state champion, because she lost a foreign exchange student. And probably the toughest loss I ever had as a boys tennis coach was her uncle, who 30-some years earlier had lost a foreign exchange student in the state singles finals. And that has, again, that's my number one regret. But to sum it all up, Kate played 5 sports in 3 seasons in her senior year. She qualified for state in every one of them. In all, she made 17 trips to state, 10 times with the team, 7 times individually. Now, what I didn't hear you mention was that she was also 4th in her class with a 4.109 grade point average. She has all-time records in scoring with 1,423 points, assists 455, and she has the school record in the 800 and the 1500. And I know that many people in here are the track stars. Her most memorable, or her best memory, was being selected as the KMA Sports Athlete of the Year, both her junior and senior year. Now, I think that's her mother's best memory, because Kate and I have had a couple of conversations, and, some of the great basketball games we had here against Shan were among her memories. She went on to Bucknell. Now, I'm from the East Coast, so I'm familiar with Bucknell. And she graduated summa cum laude with a double major in psychology and education. Her freshman year, first member, she was playing against Notre Dame, at Notre Dame, and came in off the bench as a freshman and missed a free throw. I said, no, that's not right. She hit 78% of her free throws for an entire season. But she was a freshman. She was at Notre Dame, the number 3 team in the nation in Division I. Now, her sophomore year, she came off the bench and scored the final 6 points in overtime to help the team get a NCAA tournament bid, which, as you know, those Division I major, you got to win the tournament, not just the conference. And so that was her helping the team, always helping the team. She was selected the captain her junior and senior year, and was selected or named to the Patriot League All-Tournament team and to the All-Conference team, both their junior and senior seasons. Her senior season, she led the team to the conference championship and the NCAA tournament, and they lost on the final possession to Florida State. A pretty amazing career. So, ladies and gentlemen, Red Oak's Supergirl, Kate Walker.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short and sweet. Thanks, Gramps, for that. That was very nice. Grace and I nicknamed him Gramps back in high school, so I think that kind of talks about our relationship, but he's always been family to us. So I've got a few thank yous. First of all, to KMA and Derek. Thanks for the coverage and support over the years. It's been a real honor to be just covered by you guys. Also, my mom and dad. My dad for challenging me and my mom for encouraging me. They were very different, but balanced each other out perfectly. My little sister, Sophie, who's here. She was dragged to all my things, so thanks for coming, even if you were forced. And my Uncle Todd, who's also here, who he talked about. And doesn't he have a great memory? He always brings something out from like the 70s when I was negative 30 years old, and I don't really know what he's going to say. But my Uncle Todd, who's also here, who was my coach, my therapist, and my best friend all in one. I owe a lot to him and the time he spent in the gym with me. Also, Grace Bumstead is here, my best friend, and literally the best teammate and friend I've ever had. And my greatest high school memories all include her, because all of my high school memories include her. So thank you, Grace, for coming and just for being a great friend. And also Dan Martinez and Nita Martinez, who is also here. Family to me, so many great memories, whether it was on the car rides with Nita jamming out to songs that she had no clue what they were, but she was still jamming with us. And Dan, just a lot of funny memories with him, and I know I wasn't always the easiest to coach because we did talk a lot, as he said earlier, but he always persevered even in those harder times. So thank you guys just for everything you've done for me.
All right, that's it. Thank you again to all of our inductees, all of our presenters, to Ryan and Trevor and Gentry. Couldn't have done it without you. To the Shenandoah administration, everybody else here making this a special night.